I need to know everything. Who and the what and the where I need it.
Hello, everybody. This is Brayden back with you again with my good friend Rafael, and this is The Works. So, to start off today, we're going to breach a couple topics, but what we're going to dive into first is photography. And there's no one that I know who knows photography better than the man opposite of me. We would do little photo shoots all over SeaWorld, little ones here and there on our high school campus, and they were just really great. And he has a really good, photography background and just a really great mind with it. So we're just gonna pick his brain upon that, and then also we'll get into
Photography background. Okay, photography background. Yeah, just
yeah, man. Well, again, as someone who's not a pro on it,
yeah. But how do you define a pro photographer though? That's the thing, because you could take a shot on an iPhone and have it just as good as a DSLR with an extended lens. Like what really defines a pro?
that's a great question. For me, honestly, a pro is someone who knows what they're doing. They create great pieces of photography, and they've obviously taken the time to learn what makes a photo professional, what makes a photo good. They're not just, your run-of-the-mill Instagram model type of thing, using a ton of filters to counteract if they're good or not with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I mean, yeah, no, I hardly ever use Photoshop or filters with my photos. Like, unless it's like an actual like photo shoot that I'm doing, I don't do any of that. That's like a big no-no for me. It's like a big turn off for photography. When people are like, "Oh yeah, like look at this photo I took," but there's like a million edits on it, and then there's like Photoshop, and then there's like Instagram filters on it. I'm like, that's not it, bro. That's not it. And I'm over here like, look at this photo. It's a flower, really nice, no filters. Maybe a little bit brighter, but no filters.
I'm not gonna lie, I dip in both, but I really like how natural photos are, and I miss that era where people would just go out. They'd wait for the sun just to get to that little tone in the background, so they get that lighting.
Yeah,
They
that golden hour sun.
golden hour sun, exactly. They put their subject at just the right angle, and then just snap pictures.
No, that's pretty great. It is. It's difficult because you have two time slots in the day. Either you're gonna wake up early, or you're gonna have to wait later in the day, and it's totally up to you. But both turnouts are pretty good.
I would say, Rafael, how do you feel about the path where a lot of photography has gone lately? Like, as you open Instagram nowadays compared to when it started, like, what do you think about the path that a lot of photographers have taken? And do you think it's an improvement or we're going downwards?
It depends on how you look at it. It really does. You got like the Instagram, like we were talking about earlier. You have like the Instagram photos where you filter it too much, and it just you Photoshop it, and it's no longer what it looks like when you originally took it, right? So it's that path. I don't like that path. Never have, even when I first started. Um, I like the path of creativity though, where it's no longer just subject background. It's it could be like subject, and then a different subject. So it totally, like, there's many ways where we can take photography, like if we were just focusing on subject, landscape, movement, especially in the sports, or I don't know, just like personal use. Like it really depends on how you want to put it.
Now, do you prefer landscape or subject? And what I mean by that is, do you
Mm,
prefer more of the clouds, the
like
sky?
open space.
Yeah, open space,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. I can't answer that. That really depends. Like yeah, like if you've ever hiked Cow's Mountain, right? And I've taken maybe like a couple hundred photos there. I've only ever liked one, and I think it's still on my Instagram page. But like, I don't know, like it really depends on where you are for landscape and how that landscape pertains to how you are as a photographer. I like being more of a subject kind of thing. Like there has to be a focus in what I'm taking photos in. If I can combine both, like that right there is like killer masterpiece for me. Yeah.
The reason why I ask is I remember we went to, oh yeah, it was a girl from our high school's graduation party, and out of nowhere I noticed you were gone. I'm like, man, what happened to Rafael? And you came back, and you took this amazing picture of like these clouds. This was Chloe's.
I don't remember this.
Yeah, it was Chloe's graduation party. It was when my grandpa was there.
You know what? Yeah, I remember. I just disappeared. I go into like the back of the fence of like wherever she had her like her graduation party, and all of a sudden I'm on the floor and I tilt my camera up. I'm like this, and I'm like click. And I'm like, okay, like that's pretty nice. Yeah,
What
I
was the
remember
motivation
that.
behind going out and finding that?
Oh, I just didn't want to be around people. I was like, I'm bored. I just want to do my own thing. Um, and then eventually I was like, the sun's starting to go down. I was like, might as well take a photo, and it ended up being pretty nice.
The reason why I asked the last question was I think that people get the best ideas when they're able to just let their minds wander, let themselves be free and kind of do things.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when I started thinking about this channel, it wasn't when I was working, although I do think about it a lot when I work, I'm not going to lie. But it was when I was just on my own thinking, man, what can I do to kind of share with other people things that they like, things that they enjoy? Like, how many people do I know have a lot of value that they can provide in a lot of different aspects? With shoes, the same thing. When I think about designing shoes, I started thinking about designing shoes on a summer where I'm just sitting at my grandpa's house watching Tom and Jerry all day. So
Yeah.
it's
Bro,
amazing.
we've been doing that. We've been doing that since like beginning of high school.
Yeah,
Just
man.
design, like for you it was designing shoes. For me it was like designing clothes, trying on different styles. Yeah, I get that. I get that.
I was actually just talking a little earlier today before we got on about the styles that you had during school. So all the different outfits you would have. I remember you would wear multiple ones, and I'm not gonna lie, when I was younger I thought it was odd. But now, man, I would definitely wear multiple ones because I mean, we only went to school 2 days a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So you couldn't really show off, like whatever was in your wardrobe within like give or take like 20 weeks of the school year, or like 20 days of the school year or whatever, and it was crazy. I'm like, you know what? I was like, might as well just show off. You have the clothes, might as well. I just don't know what was happening with the hair though, my guy. Like my hair was everywhere.
I mean, here's the thing, man. At least you could do something with it. The way I grew up, I only had the one style. It was short. It was a little fade, super basic. And right when it got to about 3 inches, it was cut down to 2 every single
Yeah.
time. But now we got a little facial hair growing. I'm very happy about this look. I like to be able to experiment with my looks because
Yeah.
actually I feel for the longest time, black people, it's only like long. A lot of times you can get a really good look, like it's an afro, it's dreadlocks, it's cornrows. So
Mm-hmm.
unless your hair gets to a certain point, you can't really take that route unless you're getting a fade. I wish if I could go back and do one thing like with photos in high school, I would take a lot more with you, ditch school a lot more, and go to like downtown La Mesa where they had a lot of really
Yeah.
good spots. You know what I mean? A lot of really good arts
Yeah.
tables. That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Go down
That whole section by like I think it's by Chase Bank or by Goodwill. I forget which area, but that whole like street is like so nice because everything's outdoor. Right. I would have loved to take photos there if I had found out about it sooner. Just because like I was never in that La Mesa area, like ever, unless I was in school. And I was like, this is a pretty nice spot. Like, like these are things that I sort of take for granted. I'm like, oh, okay. Like this would have been nice if, like I took photos with blah blah blah.
It's crazy to think, man. I think with everything that went on, unfortunately, with COVID, and then after COVID, all the riots and the protests, I'm not sure if you knew, but my auntie told me that Chase Bank burned down during that time.
Yeah, yeah, they
So
burnt it down.
yeah, man, I guess at this point, I'd love to transfer over now into COVID and most specifically how businesses have been affected by COVID. We're at, for people who don't know, Rafael is in Hawaii right now. And obviously, despite it being, landlocked, they're still having their own impact through COVID-19. So I wanted to let you just share the impact of it overall and then kind of how business has been affected, really.
Yeah. So here in Hawaii, everything is tourist based. The economy is tourist based. Just because that's where like everyone works. Everyone mostly works in hotels or businesses downtown. And with all those businesses, the hotels, the resorts, the luau's are all closed. Like economically, it's sort of all going down with like everything that's going on. Um, like compared to the mainland, where it's like you can probably go to another state and like have a business meeting there, like Arizona, because Arizona is open for some reason. Um, so it really depends. It like here it's not going too well, but I know everyone in Hawaii is like um, fighting um, for everything to be open. Not everything, but at least local businesses, right? Because local businesses, that's all they have. That's how they get money for their families. That's how they get money for, like how to keep their shops open, you know?
Yeah, it's really sad too. I think the biggest thing because I personally wasn't very negatively impacted, I'm fortunate enough to still have my job and family that hasn't been, you know, contracting COVID or dying from COVID. But the biggest pain I've seen is just a lot of my friends and family and people that I know and care about, and then just people I don't know losing their jobs, becoming homeless, and really impacted horribly. Now, one thing I have noticed though, because I like to observe things from afar, and it was actually from one of my favorite Instagram people. His name's Gerard Adams, and he's an entrepreneur. He posted how Warren Buffett, I believe it was Warren Buffett was one of them, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Sergey, I can't remember his last name, but he's the man in charge of Google. All of them have made billions, not just millions, but billions of dollars during the pandemic. And it has really produced a lot of not only entrepreneurs, but people to follow like their dreams, their creative dreams, because being locked at home allows you to think about all the things that you've always wanted to do. A lot of the things that you never really had the time to do. And you have more risks to take, especially if you become unemployed. Like, I mean, for me, if I lost my job tomorrow, if I lost everything tomorrow, first thing I would do is just think of what do I know how to do? What are my skills? What are my attributes? And then I would start making money off them themselves. But when you have a job and when you have all this stability, it makes it harder for a lot of people to just go for it and just do it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of risk, especially right now. You don't know how your new business is going to go, right? It's like you're going to spend all this time, next thing you know, it gets shut down, or all of a sudden the economy opens back up, so you never know where it'll take you. But at the same time, life's biggest question is, what if I took that risk in the past? It's always been that, like, what if this and that, like if we were gonna do like basketball, what if Jordan never missed, you know a buzzer beater, or the last shot for his like multiple games? Or what if like LeBron like never went to the Heat? Like, it's always a risk. There's always a risk factor in everything. But like, we have to accept the consequences. We have to accept whatever's coming to us, because once we do that, once we are able to accept that, once we're able to get it through ourselves, the payout later on in life is going to be tremendous. Like Walt Disney, with Mickey, if he sold the rights to Mickey and just fully gave it away, where would we be without that? Where would Disneyland be? Where would any of this be? You know, so you have to take that risk. I think now we can relate this to, the late Chadwick Boseman. He had colon cancer for the past 4 years, yet he made Black Panther, Civil War, all these Marvel movies, 42. He took the risk of his own life, making all these movies while in literally stage 3 colon cancer. You know, he the I know for a fact there were hidden consequences in there, through his lifestyle. Like he was affected tremendously, but the payout for him, he was not only able to influence, like stars coming out, like people of color, especially Black people, it helped them be like, get that push that they need with Black Panther, you know, or like now, like the little kids, that's his payout. The little kids, the ones that he visited when he had cancer, or just, plain like kids that saw Black Panther and they're like, that's me, like I want that to be me. I want me to be the next future Marvel hero. So his payout goes beyond just for him and went further beyond to future generations. And that's what like people need to understand with business, especially self businesses. There's always a risk, but payout is always good.
Right. And then going back to Chadwick Boseman, it was said that he even had confidence that he could, truly beat the colon cancer. A few weeks ago,
Yeah,
he said that himself, that he felt that he could truly beat it. So he never gave up on the chance of beating it. He never accepted truly
exactly.
beating it, because a lot of people, I think, that's the one thing I hate. A lot of people on the internet will always have these assumptions about people based on their looks and everything. Everyone
Hmm.
thought he was past his prime, he was done, he was looking weird and tired, without knowing the true issue. So we can never
Yeah,
judge people. But at the end of the day, he took a big risk on his own health, believed in it all the way through, and was able to influence a whole generation while fighting for his life. And what I think that people can learn, like you're mentioning, the greatest from this is when it comes to their businesses and what they want to do in their life, they cannot let an uncertainty get them down, and they can't let their mind frame, however negative it can be, because 2020 has been very negative
rough.
for a lot of people, very rough for all people.
Yeah,
I mean,
very
and
rough.
it's not just, what we see on the surface. People have their personal lives that are
Exactly.
affecting them. You know what I mean? Like, this is minus all the personal BS. So you have to think about how your mind is handling a lot of these things. You have to look at the bigger picture. You have to look at the positives. You have to be grateful for what you do have, because there's a lot of people that have more and a lot that have less. So
Yes.
Chadwick, he looked at what he had. Even despite what he was battling, he had loyal people, loyal friends, a great friend of Michael B. Jordan who stuck with him and had a beautiful Instagram post detailing their relationship. And you know what? It's something that we can look at as to not take a lot of things for granted, because a lot of times we do. I mean, we just get comfortable in the jobs we have or the people in our lives, and we just kind of roll with the
Yeah.
punches and just think, oh, it's
Yeah.
always going to be here. But you just never know, really.
And I think that's what's going on right now. And I think that's why people are so freaked out, because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, COVID comes out. It disrupts the status quo. People are going through their 9 to 5s. They're coming home, eating dinner, go to sleep, back to 9 to 5, repeat. You know, and all of a sudden, it's like there's this thing, and it just strikes down the middle, and it's like, all right, normalcy is done. Find out what your purpose is. Find out what you need to do next, because right now your life is pretty boring. And I mean that for a lot of people, whether you're just barely starting out, graduated out of high school, or you're further down your career and you're a CEO of something. how are you going to take something, per, let me rephrase that. How are you going to take what you have and turn it into something bigger? And that's always the question, because like you said, we're always taking things for granted. People have more, people have less. And I think we're so focused on what we don't have that we forget what personal power that we have within ourselves of forcing our way through things. I think individually for me, um, my greatest strength is trying to be a good leader, trying to ways to improve myself, and it's always that. But how can I take that further? For you, no offense, you were doing that. It was sort of a 9 to 5 job, but it was like sort of on your own time. But then all of a sudden COVID hits, and then you're stuck working at home, and now you have your channel, and it's like, what did you have? What did you want? What can you do to further yourself and be a better person, be better to show your value, and it goes to show there are things that we have to take risks for every day.
Yeah, and art really became my risk. Like I would just sit in my room and think about, and this was even a little bit before COVID, I would just think about, man, if only I was, dating this sort of girl, if only I was making this amount of money, all these ifs, when think about all these ifs is not going to change anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Keeping that
Exactly.
mindset is limiting.
Like as I don't know if it's human nature, but we always ask the ifs, what if this happened? What if I do this? Past, present. And then all of a sudden, whatever we were supposed to do, whatever chances we didn't take, like later on in the future, the payout for us, like the risk, the consequences, later on, we're going to be like, I should have done this. I could have done this. I would have done this differently. Like, no, it's what the question you should be asking is, what will you do next? Because going to ask yourself, what if, both pretense and past tense, for past and present in your life, and asking the questions that are like in your past, it's not healthy. It really isn't. It's what will you do next in your life, and how will you proceed with it? Because, and I think that's really powerful, because you have to know what your next step are, how you're going to improve, how you're going to take this channel, how you're going to make it better, like how you're going to let people know that it's there. We have to get rid of that mental note of ifs, shoulds, coulds, woulds.
I guess now what I want to do is just go over just like our final takes really on photography and, the impact of the coronavirus on business. For me, I'll just start with photography. Go out, take pictures, look at them. Literally use whatever you can. I primarily use a phone, and my phone is 10 times better than the camera I own. Now, my camera is not a deluxe camera. It's not a super nice camera. Like Rafael knows a nice camera, and an iPhone is not going to be on that level. Yeah.
It depends. Like,
Really?
like there's some iPhones that really take good photos. I'm not gonna tell you which ones, but yeah. And like if you were to compare like camera to like Snapchat, you ever see like the difference between like taking a photo on Snapchat and then like on your regular phone? There's a total difference, and it's like way better on Snapchat for some reason. But
It
it really
is.
depends. It really depends.
And it's really weird how that works out, but I definitely like my Snapchat photos more for some reason.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, aside from that, if anyone out there is unemployed, looking to move on from their job, or really just trying to do more, I would just say find your purpose, hunt down your purpose, and then stick to your purpose. Like for me, this is my purpose. Now that purpose might change in the coming years. It might stay the same forever. But right now, this is my purpose, and I'm sticking to it. I love it. And I just encourage people to do the same, because the one thing you do not want is regret. Like you can have all the money in the world working at wherever you want, but if you got regret, you're going to be 90 years old with a fat stack of cash and angry at the world. I kid you not.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to be a 90-year-old man to say that. I know plenty of people who are older that tell me the exact same thing. So,
Yeah. For me, I mean, starting with photography, like you said, go out, take photos, you know. It's not what you think people, think matters about what you're taking. It's about whether you find it artistic, aesthetic to yourself. Because that's all that matters. You're not taking photos for other people. You're taking it for yourself. This is for you. This is your creative mind at work. And you shouldn't let what others think affect you at all. And this goes for businesses as well, like especially through COVID. Like you want to start a self business, you have to take that risk. And along with those risks are what people think. There's going to be people bashing down on you, there's people supporting you. But which ones are going to affect you the most? Obviously, it's going to be the one that's bashing you because you don't think you're good enough. But you have to focus on the good, because the good's what's going to push you. What you have is going to push you. You have to continue pushing yourself because no one else is going to know the pressure. No one else is going to do what you can. You could probably take something, make it 10 times better. And yeah, somebody might come along, make it 100 times better. But at least you started it. You took that risk. You were like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And all of a sudden, someone's like, I'm going to take that torch. I'm going to make it better. And it's going to keep on going until, hopefully it doesn't die down. But, it's going to keep going. It's going to keep your dice rolling. And deep within yourself that you started it. Just because you said, I'm going to do it. And, honestly, all the power to you.
yeah, I could not agree more. It's not easy to do, but the hardest part, and I know this sounds so cliche, but the hardest part is getting started. It really is.
It is, because you don't know where you're going to start. You don't know where you're going to get your materials from. You don't know what you're going to talk about if you're doing like shows, like who knows? You have to come up with ideas, and eventually it'll become an ease and things will just start flowing in.
No doubt. Well, again, this is Rafael. Very great to have you on board today. As you can see, as I told you, this man knows a lot about a lot of things. So if you want to see him again, comment below. And if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to continue making these once a week for you all. And I really love all the ideas too. So aside from that, this is The Works. And it was great seeing you. And we'll catch you next time.